Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Adrienne if you are new here, and I have a very interesting video for you today. So I talked about this in a video I just uploaded, but I'm a type 1 diabetic and I get questions all the time about how I figured out I was diabetic, my diagnosis, how long have I had it, and all that other stuff. So I thought I would bring both of my parents on today to help me talk about the story of how I got diabetes and then answer some questions that I get asked all the time. So let's get into it. Okay, so all of this went down when I was in the 3rd grade. I was 8 years old. That's why I have my parents helping me, because my memory of this is not the greatest. But I remember being at school and feeling really, really sick. And we just assumed it was strep throat. So I was actually in my mom's class at the time. She was my teacher. So we called my dad and he came and picked me up from school. And then I had a birthday party that weekend. And I had some friends coming from out of town and stuff. So even though I was sick, we decided not to cancel it. And the day of my birthday party came and I was absolutely miserable, like to my core. But I'm a fighter, so I partied a little bit at my own birthday party. What happened at my birthday party from your two's perspective? Because I don't remember that much of my party.
So she was pretty lethargic at her party. So we decided that after it was all over, we had the conversation on whether or not to just let her go to bed that night and then hopefully feel better the next day, or to go ahead and just take her into urgent care, because of course it was after hours. So we decided the best thing to do would be to go ahead and take her in.
I'm going to interrupt her and inject this in there. I did not want to go to urgent care. Like, I remember I was very against the idea. I did not want to go. I remember being in urgent care. I laid across a row of chairs and I got to the point that I was vomiting. And so I would like lay. And then I'd feel a vomit, so I would just like roll and throw my head over and vomit off of the chairs like into a trash can.
Yes.
And I got there, I don't know what time I got there, but I think it was a couple of hours before they actually took me back and started running tests on me.
So they took her back and told us, that she was fine. She was a little bit dehydrated.
Yeah, they ran a bunch of tests on me and all of them came back fine. Every single one, right?
But they did not check her sugar.
Yeah.
So then I noticed that her weight was like 20 pounds difference in a child at 9 years old. And I made the comment, and then they checked her sugar. And that's when it all began.
I actually pricked my finger and it was so high that it wouldn't read on their like blood sugar meter that they had. So they kind of told my parents, like, we think she's diabetic.
They said you can go by ambulance or you can drive her, but you need to go to the medical center ASAP, and they will be waiting for
I
you.
went to the medical center?
Yes.
Okay, so we went from urgent care to like a hospital, and then what happened there?
So while you were there, you could tell you were fading. You could tell you weren't doing well. And right about the time that they came and got you, we knew that something was really, well, of course by then we knew she was diabetic, but we still didn't know the intensity of what had happened. Or they took her back and immediately started the IV, rechecked her sugar, and we found out that it was 907.
The average range for like a healthy person without diabetes is 90 to 110. A diabetic, you want it to stay between like 80 and 140. Mine was 907, which is like past the point of a diabetic level. That's to the point of like brain damage and death level. So it was very, very serious as soon as we found out.
So while we were there, I noticed her fingers had started turning blue. I asked the nurse if it was normal for her to be turning blue as a diabetic. When the nurse saw that, the doctor was back in there within just a few seconds, it seemed like, and she was turning blue at that point, and they said that we would need to be rushed to Vandy.
Which for us, if you don't know, we live about an hour and 15 minutes from Nashville. So to take us from where we were to Nashville was a really big deal.
I asked if I could ride on the ambulance with Adrienne, and they said yes. And at this point, her dad was not able to drive, so he made a phone call and had somebody come follow the ambulance. And so we made the trip there. And at this point in time, Adrian had gone completely out. And when we got to Vandy, they had a team waiting for her. There were people on both sides as she came in. And also they were good, if I remember correctly, they were good at letting Larry know where to come and everything too.
Yeah, how long after we got to the hospital did you get to the hospital?
Well, that's hard for me to say because I don't know how you guys got there before I did, and I don't know whether it was 5
right
minutes
after.
or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So you were like flying down the interstate.
Yeah.
When we got there, then she was totally out, and we could not get her to come to. So at this point, they were a little bit worried about some brain damage because of her being so bad. So they did a CT scan, and they made me like ask her questions and try to get her awake for her to say who I was. And she did fine on the questions.
Well, I would like to chime in. I do have a memory of this, and I just remember being extremely annoyed that they were asking me such easy questions.
From there, she was pretty much incoherent. We had several doctors coming in and out, and they kept telling us that she was going to be okay. She was going to be fine at this point.
At what point did they tell you, like, hey, she's diabetic? Like, confirmed?
At the urgent care before we even went to
So
the
they
med center.
confirmed to you that I was diabetic before, like, really, really early on.
They knew as soon as they checked her sugar and it didn't register. So, at that point, she didn't wake up, and what got her awake was when the boys came to see her. That was the first time that we had seen the whites of her eyes. Andrew would have been 8, Ashton would have been 5, 6.
When did they find out I was in the hospital in Vandy?
Right off the bat, they knew.
Yeah, they knew.
One thing that I did in the hospital is I'm pretty sure I had all of my presents brought to the hospital because it was still my birthday. You remember?
Yeah. You turned 9 years old.
I turned 9 years old in the hospital, and I had, like, obviously I had my friend birthday party where I opened my friend presents, but we always celebrated as a family on the Sunday. And I had all of my presents brought to the hospital because I was not skipping my birthday. I was going to have it whether I was in the hospital or not.
So from there, it was all about the education of how Larry and I would be taking care of her. They had to teach us how to give her shots. So now every single bite that she ate, she had to have a shot for. Like our lives went completely. They did a complete 180.
And I remember they had like diabetes education, and they came in and brought us safari hats. Me and Andrew and Ashton, you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I learned about diabetes. But also another thing that I remember is I hated getting pricked. Like, I got to the point where they came in to give me a shot. I was like, oh, thank the Lord, because I did not, like, I got so tired of pricking my fingers, and it got to the point where, like, pricking hurt worse than shots because I was doing it so much, and it was so new to me that, like, my fingers were still getting sore from it. I do remember that they wouldn't let us leave the hospital until you gave me a shot.
Yes, that was a big thing.
Did you have to give me a shot?
I'm the one that gave you the shot.
Yeah.
I thought you had to give me one too.
Yeah, I
Because
think.
I'm pretty sure there's a picture in a scrapbook of you giving me a shot.
Yeah, you can show those.
I'll have to overlay these
Both of
pictures.
us had to.
Yeah, I've got the pictures.
Yeah,
on here
so
right here.
we weren't allowed to leave the hospital until my parents gave me a shot because obviously when we go home, we don't have doctors in my house to give me shots. They made me leave in a wheelchair. And I was so, like, the fact that they were, like, weakening me into a wheelchair. That's what I had decided in my head. They were weakening me into a wheelchair. I was so against it. And it really upset me that they had to wheel me out because I wanted to walk and my legs worked. So I was not understanding why I had to be in a wheelchair. And when I got home, my house was decorated. I had a great homecoming. It was nice to be back. When we first came home, I had to be pricked every night at 3 a.m. I think my parents and I have very different perspectives on it. I think for them, they're just grateful that we came out on the other side okay. And for me, I remember viewing it as a kid like, wow, that was such an inconvenience. Like, that kind of sucked. But it never really hit me that I just lived through something that kills a lot of people. And, like, how, like, it didn't hit me till I was older, like, how lucky I am to be on the other side of it and how not everybody has the same outcome that I did. Because as a kid, I was just like, okay, sounds good. Would you agree?
It was
That's kinda
definitely
how it
traumatic.
was.
Well,
Yeah.
I just don't think you were old enough to realize the
Like the gravity of something.
You weren't gonna let it
this
slow
heavy.
you down.
Yeah, like it. Yeah, I was still gonna be the same person that I was.
she was able to still do gymnastics and cheer and soccer and continued life as normal, which they told us at Vandy. She would live a very normal life and always will if she chooses to take care of herself.
Also, just if you aren't super educated on diabetes, I have type 1 diabetes. There's a difference between type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is normally juvenile. You get it when you're a kid, and it's an autoimmune disease. It never leaves you. You have it for the rest of your life, no matter what. I had to count all of my carbs. I had to prick a minimum. It was probably a minimum of 5 times. For every carb that I ate, I had to take a shot. So let me tell you, I learned math really quick. My adding and subtracting, but I got very good at it. I got very good at multiplying because I was doing it all day, every day, as well as my parents.
It's very inconvenient. It never sleeps. Diabetes never sleeps. So when we go to bed tonight or any night and get a good night's rest, she constantly has to worry about where she's at in her numbers, or she could go low in the night. And if she does, that messes her up the entire next day or high, either way. So it's way more than what any of us normal people would have any idea of what she deals with day in and day out. And it definitely, talk about teaching responsibility. She's definitely a responsible.
Yeah, I got whipped into shape on that one. You can't not be responsible and have diabetes or you'll be dead. Sorry.
Yeah.
So when I was first diagnosed, I had a very fun time trying to navigate what it felt like to be high and low, because my blood sugar had probably never been low my whole life. Anytime I was low, I got to have candy, and I learned very quickly that I really enjoy being low, even though it sucks, obviously. But I really enjoyed being low because I got to eat candy. It was very awesome. Dad, do you have anything that you want to add to the story? Because you didn't talk very much.
We had to go through a whole lot of training afterwards. And we graduated from shots to pens to pumps
In less than a year.
in a year.
I got diagnosed April 28th. I was
That's
on
the
a
first
pump in December.
Yeah.
So,
So, and that's usually kind of rare. And then
That was a blessing.
we also had 4 dates a year. We'd have to go see the doctor once every 3 months.
that is true. From the
I will say one of the things about diabetes that I've even learned is that you have to manage it, as far as it's not something that you're going to fix your numbers and it's going to stay that way. It's something that you have to stay on top of. It's a constant management practice.
I never thought of it like that, but that's very true. It's not just like, oh, it broke, let me fix it really quick. It's like every time you eat, you have to refix it, and you don't know if you fixed it correctly until you feel like crap or you feel fine. That's how you learn. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed our story and seeing my parents. Thanks, Dad. Subscribe. I'm uploading 3 days a week, so I hope you will come back for my next video, but I will see you guys next time. Bye.